Welcome back. I know a couple of videos back I promised you an update on how I would be doing with trying out my new Veritas backsaws, learning a new skill. So I thought it's time we had a bit of an update and the general chat about the workshop. Catch you in a second. Oh, and before I forget, there's a very special somebody who's watching these videos, my #1 fan, the granddaughter, Holly. I promised her I'd say hi. Hi Holly. Say hello to Holly in the comments, chaps. She's a cracking community nurse and my favourite granddaughter. She's brilliant. There we go. I promised I'd shout out. She pulled a wobbly bottom lip on me, which is amazing for a grown woman, and it never fails to work, so there you go, kiddo. Right, so if you're new to this channel and haven't seen anything so far, I'll just do a very quick recap. I decided in finally doing over the workshop properly for a retirement hobby, I would kit the workshop out, get new power tools to replace the toy power tools I've started off with, and get myself a heritage set of hand tools and learn the skills that I haven't practiced since woodshop over 50 years ago. First out of the bat, I decided I was getting myself some proper backsaws, so I went shopping for the Holy Trinity, which was a pair of rip and crosscut standard size saws, carcass saws from Veritas. Still in love with them, along with a dovetail saw, so I can do small joinery, lap joints, tenons and dovetails. So with the carcass saws I tried to get a dovetail saw, a small one, fine tooth. They didn't have any, so in a flurry of madness I got myself a dinky crosscut and then bought the dovetail saw separately. So, starting out from scratch with zero skills in hand tools, I decided I'd do a daily exercise of practicing my cuts. So as you can see here, I've been doing a daily exercise. First of all, in just trying to get a straight vertical line and learning the muscle memory basically. So I've been doing that on a daily basis. If you saw the first episode, I was really cack-handed at it. It was rough, I was struggling, but it was streets ahead of the old hardpoint Draper tenon saw I'd been using, and I love these saws a bit, so I carried on with that. Moving on from that, I took a leaf out of Mike Petrovich's book that I introduced you in that session of marking out with a scribing line on blue masking tape in order to clean out a line and follow the line down with the saw, and I've been practicing them. Then I started practicing cutting on an angle as a precursor to doing dovetails, at which point I got that Raper set of expert chisels, and I'm still struggling to get a decent edge on them, but enough for rough joinery work, so that's my progress there. I've tried some simple lap joints with the carcass saws and my first tenon, haunched with the shoulder. Still a bit rough, but I admit I'm getting slow progress and I'm enjoying myself in the process. Then I dug up a rather cheap eBay dovetail guide, and I've started using that to create my first set of rough dovetails. Still very rough, not good enough even for a sloppy joint really. I've managed one, that's my first dovetail. Shall we say calling it a joint is being a bit generous. It fits where it touches and it touches where it fits, but I'm keeping that as a record. I'm still not quite at the stage where I've got my chisels sharp enough to be confident to do fine dovetails. but I'm pleased with the progress in what, a week and a half? Is it 2? I think it's not 2 weeks, I think it's a week and a half. There is a video coming on me struggling with chisel sharpening. It's all in the can, it just needs editing. The other thing that I've added to my repertoire is a Cat's Moses dovetail guide, which I think is the bee's knees. Because this is the Mark II and it's made out of cast resin instead of wood, I think the original one was, it's a bit slippy for holding it against your pieces of wood. So I think I'm going to take the advice of a couple of YouTubers I've been watching and wrap the stem in some very fine 3M sanding film to give it a bit of a grip. But I think that's the way forward. I've also emptied the piggy bank. I could have made it, but I got the Cat's Moses dovetail alignment jig, which is a way of, I don't know if you've seen it or not, you put your tails on there and it helps you mark out the other side of the dovetail, because it brings the two pieces in perfect alignment with these coplanar edges. I'm not ready for that yet, but back to this. When I started on my rip sawing, I couldn't do a vertical line and I was getting the saw blade jammed in the wood a lot, so it was very rough. After a week of practicing, just not even 5 minutes a day, just do one end then the other, just to try and do that trick I mentioned. Cut 2 vertical lines and then cut a line that halves it, and then cut a line that halves that, and then a line that halves that, and see how many you can get. I can get 6 before the thin pine splinters and breaks out, and I'm starting, I don't know if you can see, I might show it up here, I'm starting to actually get vertical lines all the way down and at perfect right angles across the top. My wood I've not cut properly, you know, perfect square, so that's been affecting everything, but I'm quite happy with my progress so far. I'll show you a quick cut. So I'll draw my first line here. I'm now getting quite relaxed in my grip, and starting off is getting a lot easier because I'm not pushing. Nearly there. This is my third cut. Little bit of binding. And 5. And then 6. Now this is where the now thin piece starts moving, breaks out on thin pine if you're not careful. And of course at this point the camera chose to fill the SD card up, and in true internet fashion, if there's no picture it didn't happen, so here's the picture. I managed to get all 6 cuts in. A big improvement, still not perfectly plumb, but I'm happy with my progress. Well, there we go. Just over a week and a bit of daily practice with my backsaws. Are they relevant these days in a modern small hobby workshop? Probably not too relevant, but I always wanted to revisit my teens, making stuff for Sir in the wood shop, and I love these saws. Would I recommend them? Yeah, but there are other brands, and getting a proper one just a little bit above the minimum price certainly has worked wonders for my enjoyment of basic sawing to a line. I'd recommend anybody who wants to just spend some time making sawdust in the workshop to try it. Same with hand planes, same with chisels. In terms of batching out stuff, unless you're going to be getting into traditional woodworking in a big way, making single one-off items, then not so much, but for bang for your buck, I'm pretty impressed. So, more to come over the next week or so. I've got lots of stuff in the pipeline. I am terribly unorganised, so I've lots of projects half done, or my PhD work as I like to call it. There we go. Yeah, finish off the cutting station. I've got some wall cupboards to go on the wall to get rid of all the clutter, because as I mentioned in somebody's comments, I'm forever taking a pile of stuff off one horizontal surface to work on that, and then having to dig through the pile I've shifted to another surface to find stuff at the bottom. Lord knows how some of you that have little Aladdin's caves ever find anything. I would love one, but I would spend all day trying to find one item. Anyway, I'm rambling on too much. Like, subscribe, there is more to come. Chisel sharpening, plane sharpening, maybe a power tool. Have you noticed all of a sudden I've been following the Axminster website because I've been dithering for a couple of months over table saw or bandsaw, and they're all on back order. Stuff comes in and it's gone before I can make my mind up, and then everything's gone up between £100 and £200 just over the last 2 weeks, I think, which puts stuff even further out of my comfort zone, but I'm going to get there. That's it, I think. It's time for you to crack on and get some work done yourself. I'll see you shortly. Take care.